This week has been critical for President Biden's agenda. The president's party is struggling to make progress on raising the debt ceiling or passing major infrastructure and social spending plans. The delays are not just being driven by opposition from Republicans, but from challenges among Democrats with two different sets of priorities. Face the Nation moderator and CBS News chief foreign affairs correspondent Margaret Brennan joins me now to help break this all down. Margaret, welcome. Good to see you. So Congress has passed a measure now that will keep the government funded and open through early December, but there is another deadline on the horizon. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned the government will run out of money to pay its bills by October 18th if the debt ceiling isn't lifted or raised. So what are the consequences of that?
Well, this is like hitting the spending limit on a credit card. This is the borrowing limit that the Congress has set and put legal parameters around. So Congress controls the purse strings, right? Which is why they wanted this legal ability to set a ceiling, a debt ceiling. What the Treasury Secretary has talked about, the October 18th date on the calendar, that's when cash reserves would be exhausted. So that would mean, in theory, that bills would not be able to be paid to do things like make payroll, etc. That is, unless Congress acts to raise that borrowing limit. The Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, who knows financial markets so well, she was the Federal Reserve Chair for years and a very well-known economist, has talked about even just trying to do away, I should say, with the debt ceiling because it has become such a partisan sort of battering ram of late to do these who's going to blink first and give ground in these political fights. But it really is in some ways endangering the global economy by playing this game of chicken. And with the debt ceiling, this is something that is wrapped up in the broader political fight on Capitol Hill surrounding some of President Biden's key economic priorities when it comes to infrastructure and then that other $3.5 trillion spending bill. Republicans are saying and arguing that if Democrats are going to go it alone and make this a partisan vote on the $3.5 trillion reconciliation package, as it's known, that they should also put the debt ceiling lift in that and essentially, they argue, own all the spending and put a Democratic label on it. That's a political point they want to make. Democrats are arguing that this is spending that happened under the past administration and the current, and that for Republicans to play this game of chicken with the debt ceiling is overall very risky.
All right, well, let's talk about those two packages that you mentioned. You know, a deal is far from done at this point. And President Biden, as you know, campaigned on being able to find compromise between opposing parties, but also in sort of bridging divides within his own party. Now, if this deal does not get done, Margaret, what are the political consequences here?
These could be huge political consequences. The Biden administration wants to look beyond this fight that is happening within the Democratic Party. They've already scheduled to unveil the next plank of their economic package on Monday with the ambassador for USTR, the trade representative, coming out and making an announcement about what they plan to do in that economic fight with China. They want to look beyond U.S. borders. They are already counting on this massive spending bill getting pushed through Congress and becoming law, which includes things that they say are needed to revitalize the American economy, doing things that have to do with greening up the economy, climate change provisions, child care provisions that would help, they argue, get women back into the workforce after being pushed to the sidelines during the pandemic. So this is something that is so key to the domestic policy agenda for President Biden that he ran on. So it would be a massive disappointment if, due to infighting in his own party, part of this agenda fails. And because both bills have been intertwined in this, arm twisting that's happening between moderates and progressives within his own party, that's the leverage here. If they lose on both counts, obviously that would be a disaster for Democrats. So that is what they're trying to avoid. And you're right, President Biden's entire brand is about bipartisanship, competence, getting Washington to work again, and trying to fix all the problems that he diagnosed as being due to the last administration. So this could be a very high cost, particularly going into the 2022 congressional races, with Republicans wanting to win back control of Congress.
So, Margaret, very quickly, I mean, you mentioned the next thing the White House is hoping to turn its attention to and kind of focus the spotlight on is China. But I wonder if some folks in the audience might be wondering, why couldn't you just wait a little bit longer to get these domestic kind of challenges dealt with? Can you talk a bit about that sort of political calendar? You mentioned the midterms, of course, and the difficulty that it also brings when you try to get a deal done as those midterms approach. What is the reality of sort of the political legislative clock here for the White House?
Well, you're rightly pointing out the thing that is looming on the calendar is 2022. We are getting very close, and you are already dealing with a number of lawmakers who have to make some decisions on votes to either deliver or try to block the president's agenda, while they're also keeping an eye on what's happening back home in their districts and saying, how do I win again to keep the job that I have now? And so they're making that constant balancing and readjustment of priorities. And for Democrats, they know in some ways they are, just based on historical precedent, potentially threatened here. That for a president 2 years in sometimes does lose control of Congress to the opposing party. And so if President Biden wants to get these things done, he is staring down the clock. At the moment, they have these wafer-thin majorities in the Senate and in the House, and Democrats are trying to make the most of it. And so that is the political reality for the president. He has promised, and he said, and likes to remind the public that he said it would take him a year to get most of the things he wanted to get done. But this is massive change being crammed in all at once in a way that Republicans are strongly objecting to and want to make look like it's irresponsible spending. That's why their messaging is all around those lines.
Finally, Margaret, police reform negotiations are dead. And you talked to Senator Tim Scott last week, the lead Republican negotiator on that issue. And I know that you'll be talking with Senator Cory Booker. He negotiated for the Democrats. Why did these talks collapse?
Isn't that incredible that at this moment where we thought the world has changed in the light of the awful killing of George Floyd and the protests that erupted that entire summer erupted, and out of it came political momentum. Then the Republican-controlled Senate said, let's get this done. Nothing happened. Now you have Democrats in control, and once again, police reform efforts have completely failed. We will talk to Senator Cory Booker, who was the lead Democrat alongside Tim Scott, the lead Republican, and get Cory Booker's version of events, because as Tim Scott passionately laid out in this heated back and forth I had with him last Sunday, he continues to argue that when it came to certain grant funding, that it was the Democrats who wanted to restrict funding. He was calling it defund the police. Now, that's a very convenient political slogan that Democrats have admitted did not work well for them and was misconstrued, and Republicans would like to remind the public ahead of 2022. Of course, Senator Scott said politics had nothing to do with that choice on his behalf. And Senator Booker, we will press him on this minimum deal that they offered about a week and a half ago, and why it was Democrats who walked away and said it's just not worth even trying at this point.
It is remarkable, as you note, Margaret, considering, as you say, just not even protests just in major cities across this country, but in smaller communities, in small towns across the U.S. in the wake of George Floyd's killing. It would be really interesting to hear from Senator Booker, his version of events. Margaret Brennan, Margaret, always great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.